In today's climate, nothing will make you a more accurate or confident shooter than Crimson Trace laser sighting systems. Get the immediate, decisive advantage of the world's only grip-integrated laser sights today. Shoot better. Stay safer. Crimson Trace.
Broadcasting on almost 200 great radio stations across the greatest country on the planet. Welcome back to Gun Talk, the #1 national voice in defense of your Second Amendment rights. What do you think? 800-825-5486 or 1-TOM-TALK-GUN. Now, here's Tom Gresham.
All righty, it is 7 after the hour. It's 79 degrees. I'm playing local radio now. I'm doing that just because I've got all these friends who are all over the country and they're freezing. No, it really is. Seriously, it's 79 degrees here in South Louisiana at the moment. Now, it's like 35 degrees colder in North Louisiana where the cold front has already come through. But for the moment, it's spring here and we're all dying with allergies. But that's okay because it'll be raining and cold and nasty for the rest of the week. So there, but you know what? You got to rub it in while you got it. Use it while you have it, right? All right, 866, yeah, boo, yes. I love it. On the call screening, they're writing, whatever, boo, hiss. I'm just not feeling a lot of love here, guys. What can I tell you? 866-TALK-GUN will get you in here. Also, you can send me an email, tom@guntalk.com. We, of course, have the contest going. It's not really a contest. It's a what do they call it? Officially, it's a giveaway. If you go to guntalk.com/win, you can enter for a chance to win a Springfield Armory XD Mod 2, the 3.3-inch and 45 ACP, your choice, all black, two-tone. You could get, like rimmed hubcaps with, I don't care, whatever you want to get on it. It's all cool. Good gun. Go to guntalk.com/win. Let's do this. Bob has been on hold for a long time. I need to get him in here first on line one. Hello, Bob. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, Tom. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for your patience.
You know this law in Washington, I think it's called 594?
Yes.
Doesn't that say that you can't switch guns back and forth at the range, for instance?
For the most part, it says you can't switch guns back and forth. I think they probably make, and I'd have to check, I think they make an exception for members of your family while you are at the range.
I see. Well, what I was thinking is the solution for that is next time you're in the gun store, buy two guns, one for her and one for him. You know what I mean?
Bob, I like the way you think, man. I'm going with that one. This is another excuse to buy more guns.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for the idea. We're going to work on that one. Look, any excuse to buy a gun is a good excuse, right? I mean, they don't call me the great enabler for nothing. If you are thinking about buying a gun, call me. I will give you the special Gun Talk dispensation and my blessing for you to go out and buy a gun. Absolutely. And you could go and tell your husband or your wife, well, Tom said it's okay. And I will. Of course I will. I think I've only told one person ever in the history, 20 years of being on the air, not to buy a gun. And it was a guy who called in. He said, he wants to buy a gun for protection. And I said, well, let's talk about practice and training and all. He said, well, I'm not going to shoot it. I just want to have it in the house. I said, I'm sorry, you don't get to buy a gun. If you're not going to take it seriously, if you're not going to learn to use it, store it responsibly, if you're not going to learn to shoot it, you don't get to buy a gun. I think he was shocked. But only time. But if you're not going to do it right, then we don't want you to do it because you're just going to become a liability for us. Speaking of training, it is a pleasure to welcome onto Gun Talk Mike Seeklander. He is the owner of Shooting Performance, competitive shooter, Marine cop, SWAT, narc agent, vice agent, organized crime cop. I've done all this stuff that you don't even know about. Mike, thank you for being here, man.
Hey, Tom. How are you today?
I know people know you as a competitive shooter. They don't know about all that other stuff you've done.
No, that's the funny thing is throughout the past few years, other than, of course, the Best Defense show, I was known as a competitive shooter because that's where I, got out on the national circuit and was competitive. But the entire time I was either in the Marine Corps or in local law enforcement in Tennessee or federal law enforcement. And, kind of in that tactical realm. Actually, before I started shooting, I started off as a kickboxer. I was a fighter way back when, and then decided, hey, I'm going to be a pro shooter versus a pro fighter just because I didn't want to get punched in the face for my entire life.
It's a combat veteran, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. When you were with the Air Marshals, I think you were there same time as Chris Areno, were you not?
I was. That's absolutely right. Yeah, I knew him well, and as well as several other guys that actually appeared on the Top Shot show, the infamous show that I was on the first season and off the first season very quickly. But I know JJ Ricasa and Chris and a lot of those guys. They were actually adjunct instructors for me. They used to supplement my instructor cadre.
Well, fabulous. So tell me what you're doing now, because you know how much we push training around here and the need for that. So give them the highlights, and then we'll talk some details of training.
Okay. Well, before I talk training, really quickly, I'm going to tell you, I, among the other millions of listeners, am completely jealous. Did you say 79 degrees?
Yeah.
I heard it.
It kills you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think it's 29 up here right now. But,
man.
In retrospect to training, I had a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day, and we talked about the programs that I had developed, and my most recent one is a defensive rifle. So, literally over the past 5 years, Tom, I don't know how many people have bought, AR-15 style rifles, but it seems like everybody that I know has one in their house in a box, and that was my latest project, was to develop a training program based on that system. So I've got a book, 2 DVDs, a Vimeo series of videos that is all about literally from step by step, set up your rifle, learn technique, and then hear your drills. And it's got a full training program that you can follow right along with. So it's a pretty neat product.
So you take it out of the box, and let's start there.
Absolutely, and the thing about it is, there are a lot of people out there that I would prefer to have in a class. I teach all over the country, but the reality is, not everybody can afford to take a class. Not everybody has the time to go to a class, or they may not be able to meet the schedule that I've set up. So, my original book, first authored book, which when I look at it now, it's kind of scares me to look at it, but was years and years ago. And it was actually a competition handgun training program, and that's still today my best-selling product. And what I did was I wrote a training program book, and I supplemented it with DVDs, and that was different than anything else out there. I mean, it wasn't your standard, all right, here's some techniques and here's some drills. I gave people a step-by-step, week-by-week training program to follow, and that's what I did in the federal government. That was my specialty. I developed training programs, so that's kind of where the different angle and approach I took.
All right, let me ask you this. Now, you've got all of this on, the website is shooting-performance.com, shooting-performance.com. People can see all the things you're doing, and you've got classes and DVDs and videos and books and everything else. Let me return to this latest thing you're doing. AR-15s, rifles, carbines, call them what you will, modern sporting rifles. As you say, a gazillion people own these, and some of them are thinking this is my home defense gun or it's my defense gun. What is the one or two things that people don't understand about using that platform for defense?
Well, I tell you what, the number one thing that I found that people don't get is the fact that that particular round, the .223 round, 5.56, call it whatever you want, is a very, very usable ammunition for home defense purposes. And every single person I talk to say, well, if you're going to shoot a rifle inside your house, isn't that round going to go through layers and layers and layers and layers? I tell them, actually, it's quite the opposite. If you grab your 45 ACP with, 230 grain bullet and shoot that in your room, there's a much better chance it's going to over-penetrate and go into your children's room, than the properly selected .223 round. That's why all the SWAT teams today are carrying .223 and shooting .223 versus the old 9mm, MP5s.
And frankly, and for those who don't know, also, it penetrates a lot less than buckshot or a slug, which will go through all of your walls. And I love that you're saying this, because this is just this last season on our Gun Talk TV show. We built all these walls, and we're shooting through them with everything. And essentially, almost everything that people use for home defense will go through all the walls. If it's almost any handgun round, buckshot will, slugs will, birdshot and .223 will not. And that always startles people, because I get the same thing you do. People say, well, it's a rifle. Yeah, it's a rifle, but it's not what you think, and you just won't get through the third wall. You just won't.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's the thing that I find amazing. The second thing is that, like I said, Tom, you probably have the numbers. I don't. how many millions of people own these things? And a perfect example is my future father-in-law. He said, Mike, I got this great AR-15 that I bought, 2 years ago, and it's still in the box. And the people haven't taken the time to take these things out and set them up and train with them and shoot them. And they're literally probably the easiest rifle to learn to shoot and manipulate. There's no recoil. I mean, it's, it's a perfect platform. If you've got somebody literally that kicks your door in the middle of the night, it's the perfect platform. You put a light, maybe an optic, and a sling on it, and you're golden. You've got a really good defensive platform.
Absolutely. Hey, Mike, hold on a second here. I want to talk some more training stuff, and I'm so glad you said sling. Basically, here's the deal, guys. If you don't have a sling on your rifle, you're not there. It's like, every handgun that you carry needs a holster, and if you have a rifle for self-defense, it's got to have a sling on it. We're talking with Mike Seeklander. If you want to see what he's up to, go right now. Go to shooting-performance.com, and you can check that out. 866-TALK-GUN. Be right back with more Gun Talk.
You already know Liberty safes are great values. Now they're offering an even sweeter deal for Gun Talk listeners. At LibertySafe.com, click on the Fat Boy safe and type in Tom. Liberty will give you up to $250 off your purchase. Protect the things you value most. LibertySafe.com, click the Fat Boy safe, promo code Tom, save up to $250. That's LibertySafe.com. LibertySafe.com.
Making news 30 years ago. The modern internet made strides when 5 supercomputers were linked to form a network. It was the same year ARMSCORE entered the U.S. market. What a coincidence. Why not use the internet to celebrate? Get big online discounts and rebates on the world's #1 selling 1911s from Rock Island Armory and quality ammunition from ARMSCORE. Get yours at armscore.com/guntalk. ARMSCORE, USA strong for 30 years.
Attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. Shopguntalk.com.
If you're looking for a safe and trusted way to sell your firearms, look no further than Dury's Gun Shop. I trusted them to sell my dad's collection. They built their business for over 50 years on honesty and customer service. Dury's Guns will buy any size collection or estate, none too big or too small. Selling your firearms to Dury's Guns is easy. Go with the pros. I trust Dury's Guns. DurysGuns.com. All right, back with the 866-TALK-GUN gets you in there. We're talking with Mike Seeklander about, shooting, training, law enforcement, military. I mean, we're talking Mike's Marine, active duty, tours in the sandbox. And Mike, my tease as I went to the break was, and I loved it that you mentioned this, when you take your AR out of the box, if you're going to use it for defensive purposes, you got to have a light on it. Two things you mentioned was a light and a sling, and people get the light. Explain why the sling.
Well, man, the sling is probably the cheapest and simplest component you can add, and the key there is you have to have the ability to do other things. If you decide to sling that rifle in the middle of the night, and, for example, you're a mother or a father and you have young children, there's a very good possibility you may have to pick them up. You may have to do something with them. You may have to open a door. And that sling system, whether you're in your house in a T-shirt and pair of shorts, allows you to actually maintain the rifle on your person without having to hold it for whatever you have to do. Now, of course, if you're out and about, and let's say, Tom, the zombies attack tomorrow or something bad happens, and you carry a handgun, the sling system is, a critical component in what I call the transitional phase when we're transitioning to a different weapon system. And then, we're talking about things that, cross into hunting and climbing and moving and doing different things like moving over obstacles. The sling is mandatory on a rifle. I mean, hunters have had slings on forever. Why? Because they need to be able to sling their rifles to move around. They need to be able to sling their rifles to climb over things. It's the same concept. They're just some more defensive applications, with a good sling on a rifle.
And the other thing is, when you have a sling on your rifle, now you have a system, and you're always going to be, if you get some training, whether it's through the DVD or online video or actual, in-person training, you have a system for reaching down, picking this rifle up, and getting on target, and then coming back down. One of the things, of course, is people, please don't just, when you've got the rifle up, don't just let go of it. Place it back down with muzzle down, correct?
That's exactly right. You're exactly right.
Because, you're still responsible for everywhere that muzzle's pointing. Okay, now I'm going to ask you maybe a more pointed and edgy question here. I know there are a lot of people who carry ARs in their vehicles against the unlikely, true, but very real possibility that something so hairy could go down that the handgun that they're carrying is not enough. Now, we could talk zombies or anything else, but I'm listening to the news this morning, and they're talking about terrorists targeting malls and such, our schools. And let me give you my personal thing. I have already told my wife, I said, here's the deal. My personal credo on defensive use of my firearms is they are there to protect me and you and our family and nobody else, because my goal is to get out of the situation. I said, however, there's one however here. If I see somebody shooting up a bus full of kids or a school, I'm going in with the full understanding that I'm probably not coming home that day. And she says, I get that. I understand that. Mm-hmm. Is that stupid of me, or is that, how do you prepare for that if it's not just the dumbest thing ever?
Yeah. No, and I'll tell you what, number one, it's not stupid. That's a personal decision that you've made, and I guarantee that I've made a very similar decision. Now, there are some tactical guys and defensive trainers, people that write and speak and say, hey, your job is always to avoid the problem, to keep yourself and your spouse or whatever else safe and get away. Maybe so, but I'm going to tell you, I'm in the same boat you are, Tom. I guarantee you, if you see a school bus full of children, or a school being assaulted, or a mall full of victims, or a theater full of victims being shot, I'm going to be right next to you going after them. That means whether I'm armed with an AR-15 that I kept in my vehicle, which there's some trickiness things there, or a handgun, I am right next to you. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a force multiplier. I've chosen to be a lion. I just wrote about this. Are you a lamb versus lion? I'm going to be a lion. And you're right. It may not be the right decision. I may leave this earth that day, but I'm not going to watch innocent people being slaughtered. Not going to do it.
Okay. Having said that, we're in the same place. You are immensely qualified for that. I am marginally qualified after taking a few classes at that. But somebody who has just had a concealed carry permit class, is it fair? I don't want to put these words in your mouth, but I'm just going to say, chances are you're not prepared for this and you need some more training. Is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, I would tell every single person I meet, every one of your listeners, Tom, that all of us, including me, and I've been doing this 25 years, I shoot professionally, I still need more training. I still train. I still take 2 to 3 classes a year, and I spend, if I can, 2 to 3 days a week on the range. I know that might be unrealistic for some people, but the point is, the perfect analogy is, your 17-year-old child or teenage son or daughter that gets their driver's license. There's not a single parent listening right now that would say, hey, they got their driver's license, now they're ready to be a competent driver, because we all know that's not true, right? They learn to drive and become better drivers after they wreck 5 or 6 times, and then they spend the next 5 years driving. If we could get those children into a driving course, they'd probably avoid the wrecks, and that's the same concept with a firearm. Concealed carry permit, and I'm all about the Second Amendment. You're right. Theoretically, we should be able to well armed without anything whatsoever because of the Second Amendment. However, training is one thing that has to happen, and if you look at our forefathers and people in the past, they carried firearms for, almost every single day, and every child in the family was trained, and they were hunting, and they were shooting, and they were, they had that experience. Well, nowadays, a lot of people go out and get the carry permit that have not been around firearms and then not have trained, and we're talking about fighting with a handgun or rifle or whatever else. It's a completely different situation. And I couldn't mirror what you said better. It's people really, they need to consider training, whether that's the free stuff they can find on the internet, or a paid program.
Okay, another question for you. I've always thought that the general public as a whole has no idea just how good a really good shooter is and can be. Now, with your background, with your training in military, law enforcement, federal law enforcement, you've worked, you shot a lot, you've worked with some good people. Give people an idea, because people say, well, what could you possibly do with a handgun? If you're really good, give them an idea of what somebody who's really good could do in a situation. How good are the good guys?
Oh, the really, really good guys are we're talking pro-level skills in a defensive application are almost unbelievable. It's, we're talking, the ability to hit very, very small targets almost unbelievably fast. We start to compare still challenge times, for example, on some of these stages where we can actually draw. And now, granted, this is from a competitive type holster with a competitive firearm, but draw and engage 5 targets in a couple seconds and hit them consistently. Now, I don't know if we would do that, for example, in a theater or a mall, but those skill levels are, they're really, really high if you work at it. And the majority of my personal skill is built during dry fire and, training at home without firing a single round. So you can get to be a really, really good shooter just by learning to manipulate your firearm and, figure out where it's pointed and stuff like that. But, I guess it would be like golfing with Tiger Woods. It would be hard to believe how good he is until you actually stepped on that golf course, and won a few rounds with him. Yeah,
and having said that, though, I think, particularly with handgun shooting, it's the area where you can improve the fastest with training and with practice.
Well, handguns are probably the hardest skill set to learn because, the way we control the direction of the muzzle is completely different than the rifle where we have multiple points of contact. But I agree. And one of the things about handguns is literally from childhood, most of us were taught to point, or we've been pointing things. So if we can start to use some of our already ingrained skills and then logically find a way to look at the sights and see what we need to see and manipulate the handgun, stuff like that. 3 or 4 hours, I can get most people doing things with a handgun that they never would have imagined they can do. And I simplify the process. I take all of the...
And Mike, look, I hate to do it, but we're just flat out of time. Let me do this. I'd love to take a class with you. Check it out, shooting-performance.com. Mike Seeklander, the bionic man these days, doing all this training, videos, everything else. Mike, thank you so much. Like I said, man, I'd go take a class from you anywhere. I want to take all these training classes. These guys are good. Be right back with more Gun Talk.
All aspects of gun ownership every week on this fine radio station. You're listening to Gun Talk with Tom Gresham.
Okay. So we have ISIS calling for attacks on Americans in malls and other public places. This is the news this morning. Not that any of us thought this wasn't happening. And Frank, it's already happened. Give me a break. You heard of Fort Hood? You heard of the Navy Yard? So a guy gets beheaded in Oklahoma, and the media just immediately forgets about it. So we've had Islamic terrorists in America already. Question for you. Given this call for attacks in public places, have you changed your behavior in any form? And if so, how? Do you not go to malls? Do you not go to theaters? Do you make it a point to carry more? Have you had talks with your family about this? What are we going to do if? When you go into a theater, do you have an exit picked out? Do you know how to get to it? Not out the front of the theater. That's where the bad guys would run you to mow you down. I'd blow out one of the doors next to the screen if they have that. Did you change the way you carry? Did you change the gun you carry? Did you go to more ammo? 866-TALK-GUNS. Or do you just ignore it and say, I'm already doing what I need to do. I don't have to worry about it. 866-TALK-GUNS. Line 4, Dave is with us out of Boston, Massachusetts. Hey, Dave, thanks for calling. How you doing?
Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it. First, I want to respond to that police officer in New Jersey who has that problem. That is not uncommon, that once a police officer leaves the force, he's not one of them anymore, and he's not going to have a permit, and the police department won't protect him. But let's move beyond that. I want people to know what's going on in Massachusetts, because what's going on in Massachusetts will spread throughout the country. Not to you, but it'll eventually reach you. Right now in Massachusetts, they just passed legislation. It is illegal and unlawful to have a rifle or a shotgun. That is now discretionary at your police department. This police department today, and I think you'll agree with me, they're not your father's police department. They're very political today. In Massachusetts, a byproduct of that, the gun stores are closing. All the gun stores, I think there's maybe one left for people to purchase guns from. So the question is this, what do we do about this? Well, if you're applying for a pistol permit or a firearms license, as I tell everybody, what you need to do is have multiple people apply with you. Get all your friends, get your mother, get your father, get as many people to apply at the same time you do. And the reason why you do that is because police departments don't like multiple people applying, because they don't want to not issue permits to multiple people, because that could endeavor a lawsuit. What do you think about that?
So you go in with a group. If they deny one person, it doesn't make all that much of a ripple. If they deny 12 people at a time, then maybe there's some more splashback, is what you're saying.
And more important than that, who are the friends of the gun owners? It used to be the Republican Party. It used to be the people in Massachusetts. You could always depend historically that the Republicans would defend gun rights. We have no Republicans defending gun rights. I understand you had a guest on your show from the Gun Owners Action League. Is that correct?
Yes, sure.
Are you aware that the people from the Gun Owners Action League were instrumental in taking away our gun rights? Are you aware of that?
I am not. I just know that they have been on the front lines for decades in Massachusetts, and I know that we also had another organization from Massachusetts. We try. Here's the deal. Now, I'm just going to stop you for a second. The moment you start bad-mouthing gun rights groups, you buy into the gun banners, their agenda. We have, take a look at it, Gun Owners of America, Second Amendment Foundation, Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, NRA, and then all the state organizations. The smart money is when we don't try to eviscerate our own. We don't go after other gun rights groups and say, well, you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or you weren't pure. I love this. We're the only no compromise group. Really? Then you're the ones that are not getting a dadgum thing done. So you'll just have to excuse me if you want to go on a rant about a gun rights group who didn't do what you wanted them to. Okay, great. Either get involved in that group or form another one, because that's how it works. And no, we're not going to go down that road. I appreciate the call. I wish you luck. And I'm going to be coming up to Boston, and we're going to be seeing what we could do to help out in any way we can. But no, we're not going down that road to attack our fellow gun rights organizations. Dan is on line 3 out of Oklahoma. Hello, Dan. How are you?
How you doing, Tom? I really appreciate you taking my call today.
Absolutely.
Hey, I have an attaboy for you. It's not for you. It's for your staff that puts on and helps put this great show that you put every week that I enjoy listening to.
Okay.
My question
What'd we do?
Everything. I enjoy your show.
Okay,
I enjoy
listening.
Enjoy your comments and the people, the pros and the negatives on your show.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
I am getting my concealed carry permit, me and my wife, and the training part I understand, and everything about getting prepared, mindset and skill set. But what about the legal set, about getting a lawyer or these advocates that will help you protect your rights when you do have to need them? What's your comment on that?
I think it's a good idea to think about it ahead of time. It's, as we like to say, the original fight is only fight number 1, and you got to get through that to get to fight number 2, which is possible charges, possible to certain, or at least likely civil charges or a lawsuit of some sort. good idea to possibly have lined up an attorney ahead of time, but understand that most attorneys don't understand this world. If they're a criminal defense attorney, all they do, for the most part, is defend bad guys. They're not used to defending good guys. Here's how, let me just tell you what I've done, okay? I have an attorney, it's a good friend of mine, and he's a shooter, and he said yes. He says, if something happens, call me, and I'll find you the right attorney. Because he says, look, I'm not the guy. He's a Second Amendment guy. He's a competitive shooter. He says, but I'm not the guy you need if you need defense and you've got into a shooting. Here's what the other thing I've done is I paid my money for me and my wife to belong to the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. So it's not an insurance program because there are people who do insurance programs. This is a program where if you get into a shooting, you call these guys and they have decades of law enforcement and courtroom experience, and they can get the right lawyer for you and can provide the expert testimony for you, assuming it's a good shoot. And they're not going to come help you out if it's a bad shoot. But it's called the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. It's put together by friends of mine. ArmedCitizensNetwork.org is the website. So it's it's a place that I believe in. I like the people there. I think they do good work. So there you go. 866 Talk Gun will get you in here. Tom Gresham. It is Gun Talk.
At Double Tap Ammunition, we hand inspect every round that we make, and we use only the best components to give you the best ammunition on the market. Try us out at www.doubletapammo.com and use the promo code GUNTALK for 10% off your order.
Crossbreed Holsters is broadening our product selection to serve more of your concealed carry needs. With products handmade in the USA, like the bedside backup, gun belts, and of course our world-famous Super Tuck and Mini Tuck holsters, we understand what works, and we take pride in providing you with a quality product. At Crossbreed Holsters, we live and breathe concealed carry. We make and sell products that we believe in and products that our customers love. To see more, go to crossbreedholsters.com. That's crossbreedholsters.com.
You got your carry permit, and that's good. But you know you could use more training. Get the DVDs, which have what you need. Springfield Armory presents Concealed Carry 1 and Concealed Carry 2 with Bata Group. Learn specific concealed carry skills from Top Gun fighting trainers. Get trained. Be prepared. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
Accurate, powerful, consistent. At Double Tap Ammunition, we offer 364 loads in 83 calibers that give you exactly what you've been looking for. Try us out at www.doubletapammo.com and use the promo code GUNTALK for 10% off your order.
There's been a lot of talk in the news about Islamic terrorism, Islamic extremists, and of course the fact that the Obama administration won't use the words. People have said, well, if you can't use the words, you can't identify the problem. If you don't identify the problem, you can't have a policy to deal with it. And then, what was it, Friday? You get the government report on a different kind of terrorist threat, the domestic threat from right-wing conservative Christians. Now, nothing is a coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence in government and in politics. And for them to come out with this and say, well, but this is what we need to be talking about, what they're doing is playing to a media who loves to say, to do attack stories on gun owners, on conservatives, on right-wing, on Christians. And so this is the diversion. This is look over here, don't look over there. Don't pay attention to the fact that we don't have a program or a plan or don't know what the heck we're doing when it comes to the radical Islamic terrorist. we're going to have you look at the people who you love to hate, right-wing, conservative Christians. Well, you know, they do have a way of redefining the threats now and then. So we thought we'd play this little thing because we're here to help out the Department of Homeland Security. So this one, maybe it will help you help them, okay?
Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, in support of Homeland Security's new definition of a terrorist, presents this Trap a Terrorist tip. Tip number 6. Terrorists are often religious fanatics who actually believe there is a higher power than the federal government. They often gather for secret meetings in special buildings, often on Sunday, but sometimes on Saturday or even other days. They often wear their best clothes and sometimes carry covered dishes containing casseroles or meatloaf. If you observe any of these behaviors, notify Homeland Security.
Yes, indeed. Can't be too careful out there. Oh, my gosh. People carrying casseroles. There we go. You know, you make light of it, but at the same time, it is disturbing when they use their bigotry. And it is, look, it's nothing more than bigotry. You know, there's a reason that American Sniper is not going to win Best Picture, the Oscars. Well, Oscars is political, okay? It always has been. Let's go to line 2. Mark's with us out of Chicago. Hello, Mark. You're on Gun Talk.
Hey, Chief. Can you hear me okay?
I got you. Go ahead.
Okay. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the lack of .22 rimfire ammunition that, I mean, I can't really hardly find it anywhere. I managed to get a small amount over last summer. And, you know, I've called manufacturers. I've even called the gun manufacturers. And I've gone on websites. And, like, for instance, I don't know if I should mention a particular outlet. I won't do that. But you scroll down, like CCI, unavailable from manufacturer, unavailable from manufacturer, okay? Now, you can. They'll have match grade .22 long rifle, but it's like $10 for 50. Or more, okay? And then some people say, oh, well, it's because of hoarding, okay? But how can people be hoarding it when it's not even getting to the store, okay?
Well, that's done. Wait. You're making an assumption here. Let's stop, okay? You're assuming it's not getting to the store. Getting to the store is one thing. Having the store offer it to sale for you is a completely different transaction. It may very well be getting to the store, but it's just not ever making it out for sale. There are millions of rounds that get to stores that go out the back door, either being bought by employees or there are people who literally meet the truck at the store. They know when the truck arrives. If it's 6 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays, they're there. They buy up all the .22 ammo and then they take it to the gun shows and they sell it at a 150% markup. So don't assume that just because it's not available to you, it's not ever getting to the store. That would not follow.
Sir, I'm not assuming anything, okay? Now, maybe this is a regional thing, but okay.
No, it's not. It's not regional. It's national. Well, let me ask you a question here. Rather than going to stores, have you been? There's a website called GUNBOT, GUNBOT.net, and it's been the best source I have found for finding ammunition. And there's .22 ammo out there. And they update this thing minute by minute, and they scour hundreds of websites that have ammo. But when they say it's available, you got to move fast, though. It's gunbot.net. But I understand what you're saying. We're all saying, boy, I would love to be able to go, I'd love to be able to go buy 10,000 rounds of .22. I'd buy it tomorrow. I'd buy it today. I'd take a break in the middle of the show and go buy it. I can't find it. And look, I know the manufacturers. When I talk to people at Federal, I say, hey, I need to buy some .22 ammo. And the guy says, I think I got a box in my drawer. I mean, I got nothing. There's no ammo that sits in the warehouse overnight at an ammo maker. They make it, it goes on a truck, it goes out the door. There's no hoarding going on there. People are simply buying it all up. There are only 3 manufacturers. Nobody's going to build another plant. The estimate I heard is that it's $50 million to build a rimfire plant. So nobody's going to gear up to do that. So what we've got is what we've got. If you want to be able to find ammo, convince everybody to stop buying their next 10 years worth of ammo. Buy only what you need for the next 6 months, perhaps, and then the shelves would fill back up. We would have 22 ammo. It really is as simple as that. We, in fact, are the problem in this case. All right, back with the 866 Talk Gun. Did you see the video of the pharmacist in West Virginia shooting the armed robber comes in? If you have it, go online. I'm sure you can find it somewhere. Let's see. WVME, looks like. Or West Virginia. Oh, go to West Virginia Metro News, wvmetronews.com. You can see the video. This pharmacist did not take any time at all. An armed guy comes in, points a gun, and the pharmacist takes a step to the left, shooting right past a co-worker, and plugs this guy more than once and renders the armed robber room temperature. The police say, good job, all is well. Don't know if he's going to face any kind of impact from his employer, or with any luck, maybe he owns the place. That would be cool. Line 1, Doug is with us out of Saginaw, Michigan. Hey, Doug, what in the world you got there?
Oh, I got the shotgun of a lifetime for me, Tom.
Talk to me.
I'm 55 years old, and at this point in my life, my shooting life is boiled down to basically two things. NRA bullseye, which I do throughout the year, and upland bird hunting. I'm a grouse and a woodcock hunter. And got a Brittany. And for years I've shot Brownings at Torreys, but I always wanted a good side-by-side. So I looked at my safe about this time last year, and I made a decision that there were 6 or 7 guns in there I hadn't touched or even shot for 10 or 20 years. So I went through a process of selling them, and I picked up a Beretta 486 Parallelo in 12 gauge. Boy, what a sweet gun! I'll tell you, the balance is just unbelievable. And
well, if only Beretta knew something about making 2-barrel shotguns. Really.
No, they're the oldest in the world, from what I understand.
Yes, they are the oldest. Actually, they're the oldest manufacturer of any type in continual operation in the world.
Wow. No, I understand this one's named a 486 because it's the 486th year in existence. So,
isn't that something?
I bought the one with the English stock and the splinter forend because I wanted a classic one. And it
what barrel
is absolutely 28 inches. It comes with the Optimus screw-in chokes, and I've kind of boiled down to cylinder on the right and modified on the left. That kind of suits me for the grouse and the woodcock. But I'll tell you what I did. I got a wild hare on Friday because I know the length of pull on this thing is a little bit long. It's 14 and a half inches for my body. So you know where I live? I live in Saginaw, so I called up to Field Sport in Traverse City.
Right, and Brian Belinsky.
Yep, I spent about 20 minutes on the phone with Brian, just off the cuff. And I got myself signed up for a gun fitting.
Excellent. I'm telling you, there's a reason they call him Dr. Shotgun. You are talking to the best guy ever for that.
Well, it was an honor to talk to him, and it was just like talking to your best friend or your dad. I mean, I couldn't believe how humble he was, and the time he spent. We talked about vision and safety a little bit, and what was going to happen. And he put me in touch with the secretary, and we set up a time, and I'll be getting some stuff in the getting some. All right,
here, I got. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, Doug. After you get your gun fitting, and when you get your gun back, then call us up and give us a report on how that all came about. Because I've gotten a gun fitting from Brian before. By the way, Brian's in Traverse City, Michigan. Great. And I'm sorry, Doug, I got to run here. But yeah, give us a follow-up on this. If you're interested in what we're talking about, check out the website. It's fieldsportltd.com. Fieldsportltd.com. Brian has a lot of really nice used shotguns, over and unders, and side-by-sides there. There's a reason they call him Dr. Shotgun. Nobody does gun fitting better than Brian. They also do in September, I want to get back to that, they do a great wing shooting school, a 2-day school, and you can also have a gun fitting as part of that, and they can alter your gun. Really worthwhile and tons of fun. Brian Belinsky, one of the truly sharp guys. Nobody knows shotguns the way he does.